Hey everyone, welcome back to Talk Tickers.
Always good to be back.
You know we love digging into earnings calls here.
Absolutely.
And today we're going to be taking a look at Seagate Technology's Q1 2025 report.
Yeah.
They just had their call on October 22nd, and things are getting really interesting in the world of data storage.
Interesting is an understatement, I think.
Right.
Seagate's a real powerhouse.
Yeah.
And their performance this time around kind of gives us a peek into what the future of data looks like.
Right.
Especially with all this hype, around AI and the explosion of just digital content we're seeing.
Yeah, so before we jump into the specifics of the report, why don't we talk a little bit about earnings calls?
Okay.
Why are they a big deal for investors?
Yeah, so earnings calls are kind of like a report card for a company.
Okay.
They lay out, how much money they made, how they're spending it,
Okay.
and what their plans are for the future.
Gotcha.
And for a company like Seagate, which is really, crucial to data storage, what's that?
That's super important information.
So let's look at Seagate's report card.
Okay.
I've been skimming some of the headlines, and it looks like they had a pretty awesome quarter.
Yeah, killer quarter.
Killers, right.
Revenue up almost 50% compared to last year. Wow. Which is huge. Landed at $2.17 billion.
Wow.
And their non-GAAP earnings per share came in at $1.58.
Okay.
Which beat analyst expectations.
That's impressive.
Yeah, very impressive.
I think what really caught my eye, though, was their non-GAAP gross margin.
Oh, yeah.
Hit 33.3%.
Highest it's been in over a decade.
That's amazing.
Yeah, what's driving that? What's going on?
And what is driving that incredible profitability?
Well, I think it shows that their strategic moves are really working.
Okay.
They've been really disciplined with their supply chain.
Okay.
Meaning they haven't just flooded the market with drives, which keeps demand high.
Gotcha.
And protects their pricing power.
Yeah.
They've kind of found a sweet spot.
So it's not just about, producing a ton of drives.
Right. It's about making the right amount at the right time.
Exactly, at the right time.
Okay.
And on top of that, they've really streamlined their operations,
Okay.
Becoming much more cost efficient. And they even announced a dividend increase of almost 3%, signaling to investors that they're confident about the future.
Yeah, that's always a good sign.
Absolutely.
So Seagate is financially killing it.
They are.
What is fueling this success? I kept seeing this phrase, mass capacity market.
Yes.
What does that even mean?
Think of it this way. It's where the big data lives.
Okay.
We're talking cloud providers like Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure.
Right.
These companies need to store just insane amounts of information.
Yeah.
And that's where Seagate's hard disk drives, or HDDs, come in.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're talking about nearline drives.
Okay.
You familiar with nearline drives?
Break it down for me.
Okay, so imagine a library with millions of books.
Okay.
You need access to those books, but not necessarily instantly, right?
Right.
That's where nearline drives come in.
Okay.
They offer huge storage capacity
Yeah.
and have relatively fast access times.
Okay.
They're perfect for these massive data sets.
So they're like the workhorses of data storage.
Exactly, workhorses.
Reliable, high capacity, ready to go when you need them.
Absolutely. And the earnings call actually highlighted a fascinating trend
Okay.
that's driving even more demand for these nearline drives.
What's that?
The explosion of video content.
Yeah. We're all glued to our screens these days.
We are.
How does that translate into more need for storage, though?
Well, think beyond just YouTube.
Okay.
E-commerce platforms are using more video.
Right.
Social media is becoming increasingly video-centric.
Makes sense.
And longer form content is on the rise.
So all that data has to live somewhere.
It does, and that place is often a massive data center.
Wow.
Filled with Seagate's HDDs.
So all those, unboxing videos and TikToks are fueling a data storage boom.
They are.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and here's a fact that might surprise you.
Okay.
Hard disk drives still dominate cloud storage.
Really?
Yeah, they account for nearly 90% of all the bytes stored.
90%? I thought flash storage was taking over.
Yeah, flash storage is definitely important.
Yeah.
Especially for those speed-critical applications.
Right.
But when it comes to sheer volume and cost-effectiveness, HDDs are still the kings of the cloud.
So we've got the cloud as a major driver. But the earnings call also mentioned enterprise and OEM customers.
Yeah.
What role do they play?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So while cloud is king, Seagate also saw a big uptick in demand from these other segments.
Okay.
Enterprise refers to large businesses and organizations,
Right.
and OEM stands for original equipment manufacturer.
Okay.
Think companies that build servers and computer systems.
So beyond the cloud, businesses are realizing they need more storage too.
Exactly. After a period of stability,
Okay.
these customers are ordering more nearline drives, which points to a recovery in that traditional server demand
Gotcha.
and a trend towards more storage per unit.
So Seagate's capitalizing on this trend across multiple markets.
Absolutely.
It's good for growth.
Very good for growth.
Ah.
That diversification is key.
Exactly. So they're not totally reliant on the cloud, which can be volatile.
Precisely.
They also touched on the VIA market,
Yeah.
video and image applications.
Yes.
So think surveillance systems, security cameras, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
What's happening in that segment?
It remains stable, but what they're seeing is this interesting shift.
Okay.
Even security camera footage is moving towards cloud-like solutions.
Oh, wow.
As data retention needs grow and video analytics become more complex,
Yeah.
customers in this segment are looking for storage solutions that resemble what cloud providers use.
So even security footage is becoming part of this massive data ecosystem.
It is a trend that we're going to continue to see accelerate.
Yeah, it seems like everything is going to the cloud these days.
It really does.
Okay, so we've covered Seagate's strong financial performance,
Mm-hmm.
the dominance of the cloud.
Yeah.
Touched on enterprise and VIA markets.
Uh-huh.
But there's one big thing we haven't talked about yet.
What's that?
Generative AI.
Oh, yeah, the elephant in the room.
Everyone's talking about it.
Yeah.
But how does it impact a company like Seagate?
You're right. Generative AI is the hot topic right now.
Yeah.
Sending shockwaves through every industry.
Right.
Data storage is no exception.
Of course.
While it's still early days,
Yeah.
Seagate sees generative AI as a potential catalyst
Okay.
for just an insane amount of data creation.
It makes sense. AI needs a ton of data to learn.
Right.
Then it generates even more data
Exactly.
as it creates images and text and who knows what else.
It's a data monster.
It needs constant feeding.
It does.
And Seagate believes that HDDs, with their lower cost per terabyte and energy efficiency, are really well suited to meet those demands.
Absolutely.
So Seagate is betting big on AI as a driver for their hard drives. But can their technology keep up with this demand for more and more storage?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And that leads us to Seagate's technology roadmap,
Okay.
which outlines how they plan to navigate the future of data storage.
So what are they cooking up in their labs to prepare for this AI-powered future?
One of the key things is ramping up their final PMR platform,
Okay.
perpendicular magnetic recording,
Right.
which can handle 28 terabytes of data per drive
28 terabytes on a single drive.
on a single drive.
That's incredible.
It's huge, and they're seeing rapid customer adoption.
Wow. So they're selling like hotcakes.
Absolutely, they are flying off the shelves.
Okay, so PMR is their current workhorse.
It is.
But what about the future?
That's where AMR comes in.
AMR, heat-assisted magnetic recording.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the next big thing in data storage.
I'm a little fuzzy on how it works, though. I
Right.
mean, are we talking lasers shooting data onto spinning disks?
Not far off.
Really?
AMR uses a laser to heat up a tiny spot on the disk. Makes it easier to write data.
Okay.
This allows for much higher data densities,
Okay.
meaning you can cram way more information into the same space.
Okay, so it's like softening clay before molding it.
You got it.
You can add more detail,
Exactly.
higher precision.
That's why HMR is such a game changer.
Yeah.
It allows Seagate to create drives with much greater capacity.
Sounds pretty high-tech.
It is.
Is it ready for prime time, though? Are they actually shipping these drives yet?
They've started shipping HMR drives to select customers
Okay.
and are making good progress with qualifications at major cloud providers.
So what does qualifications mean in this context?
It means the drives are going through really rigorous testing
Gotcha.
to make sure they meet the cloud providers' standards.
So it's like a seal of approval from the most demanding customers.
Exactly.
So HMR is still in its early stages,
It is.
but it's making good strides.
It is.
But didn't HMR run into a little bit of a snag earlier this year?
You're right. There was a temporary setback.
Yeah. I remember reading something about a failure mode during testing.
There is a specific failure mode that they discovered,
Right.
but Seagate has addressed the issue
Okay.
and hasn't seen it recur in recent tests.
That's good.
They've implemented some safeguards,
Okay.
and they're confident that it's been resolved.
So HMR is back on track,
Back on track.
poised to revolutionize data storage.
Absolutely.
What makes it so much better than PMR, though?
Okay, well, with HAMR, Seagate has achieved a density of 4 terabytes per disk.
Hold on. 4 terabytes on a single disk. How is that possible?
That's the power of HMR.
Wow.
And here's the kicker.
Okay.
They did this solely through what's called areal density gains.
Areal density gains.
Basically, by using heat to assist in the writing process.
Okay.
They can squeeze a lot more data onto the same area without changing the physical design.
So it's like writing a novel in the same size book, but with much smaller letters.
Exactly. Much smaller letter.
I'm starting to grasp the magnitude of this breakthrough.
It's a big one.
But even with HAMR, I have to ask, will it be enough to keep up with this insatiable demand for data storage? I mean, we're talking about AI and video and all this other stuff exploding in the coming years.
That's the question on everyone's mind.
Yeah.
Even with HAMR, we might reach a ceiling.
Right.
Data storage demand is growing astronomically.
Yeah.
It's hard to predict what the future holds.
So what happens then? Are there any other technologies on the horizon that could help us avoid a data storage crisis?
There are some exciting possibilities out there, each with its own advantages and challenges.
Okay.
But we can explore those a little bit later.
Okay. So good.
Welcome back to Talk Tickers.
Glad to be back.
Before we jump into some truly mind-bending future tech,
Okay.
let's put this data explosion into perspective. We all know it's big, but can you quantify it?
You give us some concrete numbers to illustrate the scale of this challenge.
Okay, so by 2025, the total amount of data created, captured, copied, and consumed globally is projected to hit 181 zettabytes.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
A zettabyte. How many zeros are we talking about here?
A zettabyte is 1 sextillion bytes.
Okay.
Or a 1 followed by 21 zeros.
Okay.
It's a number so big it's practically incomprehensible.
Yeah, that's more data than like all the grains of sand on all the beaches.
That's right, on Earth.
So even if AMR helps us squeeze more data onto drives, it feels like we're still playing catch-up.
Yeah.
Are there any other technological breakthroughs on the horizon?
There are some really exciting possibilities being explored.
Okay.
One that's really promising is something called multi-actuator technology.
Multi-actuator. That sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It does, right?
Yeah, what is that all about?
So imagine a hard drive with multiple read-write heads.
Okay.
All working independently instead of just one.
Okay.
So it's like having multiple lanes on a highway instead of everyone being stuck in a single lane. Data access times could be dramatically faster because you wouldn't have to wait for that single head to move across the entire disk.
So it's all about speeding up access.
Yes.
Making those hard drives more nimble.
Exactly, more nimble.
So we've got multi-actuator technology, potentially boosting performance.
Yeah.
What else is in the pipeline?
Another area of active research is two-dimensional magnetic recording, or TDMR.
Okay.
Right now, data is stored linearly on hard drives, like beads on a string.
Okay.
But TDMR allows for data to be stored in a 2D grid, like pixels on a screen.
So instead of a line of data, it's a sheet of data.
Yeah.
Much more efficient use of space.
Exactly, more efficient use of space.
That could lead to greater storage densities.
It could.
Breaking those capacity limits that we thought were unbreakable.
Right.
As we're talking about all this cutting-edge technology, it's easy to forget about the real-world impact.
Right.
Especially the environmental impact.
Of course.
Data centers consume a ton of energy. And as data volumes grow, so does their carbon footprint.
You're absolutely right. It's a big concern.
So what's being done to make data storage greener?
Well, there are multiple approaches.
Okay.
One key area is improving the energy efficiency of the drives themselves.
Okay.
HDDs already have an advantage over flash storage there, but there's always room for improvement.
Of course.
Companies like Seagate are working to reduce the power consumption of their drives by using more efficient motors and electronics.
So it's like designing a car that gets better gas mileage.
Precisely.
Using less energy to go further.
That's a great analogy.
And beyond the drives themselves, are there efforts to make data centers more sustainable?
Absolutely. Companies are looking at renewable energy sources. Things like solar and wind power to run those data centers.
Right.
And they're implementing more efficient cooling systems. Just to cut down on that energy waste.
It's encouraging that the industry is taking this seriously.
It is.
But even with all these efforts, it feels like we're generating data faster than we can store it sustainably.
It's a tough challenge.
Is there any way to slow down data growth?
Well, it's unlikely that data creation will slow down anytime soon.
Right.
But we can manage it more intelligently.
Okay, how so?
One approach is data deduplication.
Okay.
where you get rid of redundant copies of the same data.
So instead of having 10 copies of the same file,
Right.
you just keep one master copy.
And exactly, and that frees up valuable storage space.
It's like decluttering your digital life.
Exactly, decluttering.
Make sure you're not hoarding unnecessary data.
That's a great way to put it.
What about data archiving?
Yeah, so that's another approach
Okay.
where you move data that you don't access very often to cheaper, less energy-intensive storage.
So it's like moving boxes of stuff to a storage unit.
It is.
You still have access to it,
Right.
but it's not taking up space in your everyday life.
Exactly. A great analogy.
So by implementing these smart data management strategies,
yeah.
we can make sure we're storing only what's valuable
Right.
and minimizing our environmental impact.
Absolutely.
Okay, so while data growth might be inevitable,
Yeah.
we can mitigate the impact
We can.
through smarter management and more sustainable technologies.
For sure.
But all these innovations from HAMR to multi-actuator drives, they sound pretty complex.
They are.
How can everyday investors like us keep up with all this change?
It's definitely a challenge, but it's not impossible.
Okay.
The key is to focus on those major trends that are shaping the industry.
Okay.
So keep an eye on companies like Seagate
Yeah.
and their technological advancements.
Mm-hmm.
Read industry reports.
Okay.
Follow analysts that specialize in data storage.
Basically, keep listening to Talk Tickers.
Exactly.
We're here to help.
We break down those complex topics, make them accessible to everyone.
Exactly.
But it's also important to stay curious and ask questions. The more you learn,
Yeah.
the better equipped you'll be to make those informed decisions.
Yeah. Well said.
Whether you're an investor or just someone who wants to understand, what's shaping our digital world.
It sounds like the future of data storage is going to be a wild ride,
It is.
full of groundbreaking innovations and complex challenges.
Absolutely.
But with companies like Seagate pushing the boundaries of what's possible
Yeah.
and a growing focus on sustainability,
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling cautiously optimistic that we can find that right balance.
I agree. It's a dynamic industry with a ton of opportunity and a few hurdles along the way.
Of course.
But for investors, it's an exciting space to watch.
For sure.
Especially as companies like Seagate continue to shape the future of data.
Okay, folks, that's it for part 2 of our deep dive into Seagate's Q1 2025 earnings call.
Yes.
Join us for the final part,
Part 3.
where we'll analyze what all this means for investors
Okay.
and discuss Seagate's long-term prospects
Sounds good.
in this rapidly changing landscape.
See that?
We'll be back after a short break. Welcome back to Talk Tickers listeners.
Good to be back.
We've covered a lot of ground in our Seagate deep dive.
We have.
Explored their financial performance, their technology roadmap,
Yeah.
and the just mind-boggling scale of data growth
It's huge.
that we're facing. But now, let's talk about what it all means for investors.
Okay.
Is Seagate a stock worth considering?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
What are their prospects in this rapidly evolving landscape?
So first and foremost, Seagate is in a really solid financial position.
Great.
Their recent performance shows they know how to execute.
Yeah.
And they know how to generate profits.
Right.
They're not just some, flash in the pan startup.
Right.
They've been a major player in data storage for a long time.
They've got that proven track record.
They do.
Solid management team.
Yeah.
Strong balance sheet.
Absolutely.
That stability is attractive to investors.
It is, especially in a market that can be, unpredictable.
For sure. So financially, they seem to be in great shape.
Yeah.
But what about their future prospects? The data storage landscape is changing so rapidly.
It's constantly evolving.
Can they keep up with the pace of innovation?
Well, that's where their technology roadmap comes into play.
Okay.
HAMR, their heat-assisted magnetic recording technology,
Yeah,
has the potential to be a real game changer
for sure.
if they can successfully increase production and meet that growing demand for high-capacity drives.
Right.
It could give them a big edge over the competition.
But we also talked about, the inherent risks in any tech venture.
Of course.
What if AMR doesn't live up to the hype? Or a new disruptive technology comes along?
Yeah, are they putting all their eggs in one basket?
Exactly.
It's a good question. Those are valid concerns.
Yeah.
Technology is always evolving, always the chance of being disrupted.
Right.
But Seagate isn't betting only on AMR.
Right.
They're also investing in other promising technologies.
Like what?
Like those multi-actuator drives we talked about, which could really improve HDD performance. And they're exploring new avenues like TDMR, which could push those storage densities even further.
So they're diversifying their research and development efforts.
They are.
which is always a smart move.
Always a smart move.
To hedge their bets.
Yeah.
Stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
But let's talk valuation for a second.
Okay.
Is Seagate stock currently overpriced?
Right.
Undervalued? Somewhere in between?
Yeah, it's a tricky question.
Yeah, what's the word on the street?
Depends on who you ask, really.
Okay.
Some analysts think Seagate is undervalued right now,
Okay.
pointing to their strong earnings and future potential with AMR.
Right.
Others are a bit more cautious.
Okay.
They cite the cyclical nature of the tech industry and the potential for more competition as new players come in.
So, mixed opinions from the experts.
Mixed opinions.
What's your take on their valuation?
You know, I lean towards cautious optimism.
Okay.
Seagate has a lot going for it.
Yeah.
They're in a good spot to capitalize on this whole data explosion, right? And their tech advancements are really impressive.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember, you know, the tech industry.
Yeah.
It's known for these cycles of boom and bust.
Right.
There will be ups and downs.
So don't bet the farm on Seagate.
Right.
But it might be worth a look for investors who are okay with a little risk
Yeah.
and have that long-term perspective.
Exactly.
Those who believe in the growth of data are impressed with Seagate's track record
Yeah.
and their technology.
Yep.
Might find this stock pretty compelling.
It could be a good addition to a portfolio.
But, as with any investment,
Yes.
do your research.
Absolutely.
Weigh the risks and the rewards.
Yep.
Make an informed decision.
That aligns with your goals.
Don't just rely on the hype
Right.
or headlines.
Exactly.
Dig a little deeper.
Do that due diligence.
Understand the fundamentals.
Yep.
I think we've covered just about everything in this deep dive into Seagate technology.
I think so.
Any final thoughts?
The key takeaway is this. The data storage industry is transforming rapidly.
Yeah.
We're creating more data than ever.
Right.
Companies like Seagate are in this race to
Yeah.
develop new solutions to meet this incredible demand.
It's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out.
It is a dynamic industry,
It is
full of opportunity,
lots of opportunity.
and some challenges along the way.
For investors, it's a really exciting area to watch
Absolutely.
and potentially participate in
Yeah,
as companies like Seagate shape the future of data.
that's right.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Seagate technology.
It was a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next episode of Talk Tickers.